Okay, so today is January 24th, and I wanted to make a little video of how I start my tomato seeds, my peppers, a lot of my flowers, different things. I am the plant geek in the family, so everyone always asks me, when do I start this? When do I start my flowers, my peppers, my tomatoes? And so this is what I do. Now, my estimated last frost is April 9th, but I never put my plants out on April 9th because that's just an estimated last frost. That uh, we are always way, way, way colder. We get mini frosts after that. So I wait until May 15th to put my tomatoes out. And I think I even wait a little bit longer to put my peppers out because peppers like a steady 50 degrees at least outside. And I have noticed when I set my peppers out with the tomatoes, they just get stunted and they don't do as good. So I set the peppers out a little bit later because they like much higher temperatures. So I get some potting mix. It doesn't have to be anything special, just potting mix or seed starting mix, but you don't have to get specifically seed starting mix. Potting mix is fine as long as it's got peat moss in it, something to hold moisture. You don't want to get like garden soil. I know when I first started out, I had no clue like what is the difference between potting soil and garden soil and peat moss and well, I quickly learned. I took a big bag of garden soil, which is like giant wood chips and mulch, like really woody, well-draining soil, and I put it in a pot and put some plants in a pot, and uh, they didn't grow. They didn't do anything. All of the water just ran right through the bottom. So this potting soil and seed starting mix has peat moss in it, or coco coir, which is the furry stuff on the outside of a coconut. It holds moisture. You want something that's going to hold moisture for your seedlings. So I get some potting mix, 72 cell seed tray. You don't need a tray this big if you're just growing a couple of things, but I mean, they're cheap and why not? If you change your mind, there's always room to add more. So take the potting mix, and before you put your soil into the tray, I always pre-moistened it because peat moss, which is contained within potting mix or coco coir, is hydrophobic, meaning that it repels water. So if you put this in here dry and then you try to water it, it's not going to work. You're going to be sitting there for hours, like, and the water's just going to lay on top. So pre-moisten this. I always get like a big bucket or a plant, like a potting planter. Dump the soil in there, dump a glass of water in there, mix it up with your hands, and then pack your seed cell trays. So after you do that, you want to push it down, push the soil down nice and firm, because if you just take this, put it in the cells, and just scoot the dirt off, you don't pack it down or anything, when you put your seeds in there, you're going to water it, and your seed, since the soil is so loose and airy, your seed is going to drop all the way down to the bottom right there. And seed will not have enough energy to pop all the way from the bottom to the top. There's not enough energy in a little seed to do that. So, pre-moisten your soil, pack your seed tray, push it down. It's pre-moistened. And then you want to plant your seeds according to the back of the seed pack. So, like I said, tomatoes. I will plant these 8 weeks before my last frost, which I say my last frost is May 15th. Don't mind my cat. She's trying to get out of the room. I locked her in here with me. So yeah, this is tomato, and I will plant this probably the beginning of March, mid-March, 2 months before my last frost, my guaranteed last frost. A lot of people even plant them 2 months before their estimated last frost. So that would mean that I would plant them February 9th, which is like 2 weeks from now, but I don't have a setup that allows for very, very large plants at such a massive quantity like this right now. So I have to plant them a little bit later because I don't have enough room. I don't want tomato plants that are like 3 foot tall in my house. And usually in April or so, like late April, I start taking them outside because you want to acclimate them, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So yeah, tomatoes, 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost date. Sweet peppers, same. You can plant these the same time that you plant tomatoes. Now, hot peppers, on the other hand, hot peppers take a very, very long time. So I've planted these at the beginning of February before and didn't see a harvest until August or September. They take a long time. These are from the Dollar Tree, and it says 110 days to harvest red or 90 days to harvest green. They take a really, really long time. I've never had one actually within 90 to 110 days. It's like more like 120. Like 120, 130, maybe 180 days. 6 months at least. But yeah, I get these started way, way, way ahead of time. Like January 15th is when I planted these hot peppers this year. And that's the Sugar Rush Peach, the Puma, the Tabasco. These are all really hot peppers and they take a really, really long time. So 8 to 12 weeks for hot peppers, 6 to 8 weeks for sweet peppers and tomatoes. And then I have some seeds here that I direct sow. So that means just stick straight into the ground. So the dragon tongue bush bean, I put that seed right into the ground. The only way that I do plant those in a cell tray is if I'm having like major pest issues. But stuff like this, beans, they grow so fast. So that's why people don't start them in a tray like this, because they just grow so fast. Like pumpkins, squash, anything like that. Cucumbers, they grow so fast. I mean, you could start them in here, but you would have to get them out within, like probably a week. You would have to put them in the ground. Same thing with squash. Direct sow these unless there's a pest issue. I direct sow cucumbers unless there's a pest issue. But yeah, that is how I start my seeds. So these, my sweet peppers and tomatoes, I will be starting these guys early March or mid-March. And they will be 2 months old or more by the time that I put them out. But when I started gardening in 2020, this will be my 4th garden this year. In 2020, all I had was some potting soil and a seed tray. I didn't have lights. I didn't have a heat mat. I didn't have any of this. I just planted my stuff, set it next to a window. As soon as it got warm out, I would take it outside for the day and bring it back in at night when it got cold. Over and over and over until it was warm enough and I was sure there wasn't going to be a frost to put them outside. But that's another thing. So acclimation. You can't just take, if you start peppers and tomatoes inside, if you just take them, okay, I've passed my last frost, I'm going to go put them outside. If you do that, they will die. You have to acclimate them over about a week or two. I take them out like when it's cloudy, let them get used to the UV rays of the sun. These plants that have been inside for so long, they're fragile. They're not used to really harsh, UV rays from the sun. They're not used to wind and the elements. These are coddled, babied plants. They're not very resilient yet. So you need to bring them out, let them get acclimated, put them in like a shady area. Don't sit them in the direct sun. Do that over a span of a week or two. Slowly introduce them to more sun each day, and then they will be fine to put out into the garden. I've taken a couple before, didn't know, put them out into my garden, and they just died. I had no clue that I needed to, like, acclimate them or, like, train them to be resilient out there in the world. But yeah, that is how I plant my seeds, and I'll do another video in about a week.